Happy New Year, everybody. It's me again. Do you remember? Look, I'm so sorry for the radio silence. I've actually been working on a game, but I'll be talking more about that in the future. Anyway, how's life? Did you enjoy the holidays? Did you play Red Dead 2? How about them cowboys?
You failed me? Till someone makes a stand.
That's pretty rootin' tootin' now, if I'm being totally honest. No, look, the reason I'm here is I actually want to talk about the Nintendo Switch again. But I want to take a look at how Nintendo themselves are shaping up to tackle 2019. I'm pretty excited, as it's going to be a key year for the console and for the company. So let's jump right in and take a look at what this spicy individual has in store for us over the next 12 months. Now, I have talked before about this on the channel, but the Switch has filled a hole in my life, previously left blown to pieces by how piss poor the PS Vita was in delivering on its initial promise. We're almost 2 years in, and not only have we had games like Mario Odyssey and Zelda wildly exceed our expectations, but we've also had crucial third-party support for the console, which, for me, is where the Vita straight up sucked arse. Third parties avoided it like the bubonic plague. But the Switch though? Oh boy, actual third-party support on a Nintendo console. 10 out of 10, Reggie, you've done it again. As the Switch moves towards its second birthday and its third year on the market, it's fair to say that Nintendo have quite a few challenges ahead of them, two of which are in keeping the momentum strong and keeping pace with a changing market. Sure, that's easy peasy. Just ask anyone who worked at Sega from 1993 to 2001.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
The Switch has enjoyed the limelight relatively exclusively now for almost 2 years. There hasn't been much in the way of direct competition, thanks to the Switch being a fairly unique concept to begin with, and thanks to it releasing during the latter part of an established console generation. Sony and Microsoft have dropped significant hints, however, that next gen won't be next gen for much longer, and Nintendo is going to have to contend with that attention being pulled away from them rather abruptly. So what can Nintendo do to compete? Hardware. Some believe the answer to be new, more powerful hardware. There was a lot of videos doing the rounds on YouTube late last year that predicted Yoshiaki Koizumi going full sicko mode and announcing a new Switch Pro console with massive graphics. This, in theory, would put the new, more powerful Switch in roughly the same position hardware-wise with next-gen consoles that the current Switch is in now with the PS4 and the Xbox One. But would Reggie and the boys really commit to something so drastic? After all, everybody gangsta until the Switch starts upscaling. Speaking for myself, I love the Switch and I'd love to see a new, more powerful model, but I can't speak for the 18 million other people who've dropped their hard-earned money on a Switch. Let's not forget, in the grand scheme of things, the Nintendo Switch is already pretty expensive when you put it next to the PS4 and especially the Xbox One S. I mean, come on. I heard that if you repeat the phrase "exclusives don't matter" into a mirror 3 times, Microsoft will actually pay you to take 50 Xbox Ones off of their hands. Like this video if you don't think Phil Spencer is a real person.
Please welcome the head of Xbox, Phil Spencer.
No, not real.
As gamers, we're at a momentous time.
Corporate myth,
where creative vision
fiction.
and cutting-edge
I think it's more reasonable to assume that Nintendo will probably play it a bit safe with their hardware revisions until much later in the Switch's life cycle when things go all shit. What we could see this year is a small revision that works out some of the kinks that have made themselves apparent on current Switch hardware. The Joy-Cons could be more secure, the screen could be bigger and brighter, and they could swap to a new manufacturing process for the Tegra chipset that would make things run cooler, quieter, and on less power. They could also just throw out years of R&D out the window and do another Game Boy. Face it, you're ancient. The wife is gone, the kids have gone with her. Sure, what harm is there in playing a few more rounds of Tetris? It's not like the microwave will be mad if you're home late. Game Boy. Now you're playing with power. battery power. Keep a few with you. There is a part of me though that considers the Switch kinda backed into a corner when it comes to any potential redesigns. Let's not forget there's 3 separate pieces of hardware that all rely on each other in order to work as one. We've got the tablet itself, the Joy-Cons, and to a lesser extent, the dock. Surely that means Nintendo have to maintain compatibility if they offer up any new models. And if they choose not to, people are going to be battering each other on the streets. It'll be bedlam. It'll be interesting to see how Nintendo go about tackling this issue given the hurdles that I've mentioned. If we go by the company's history, keeping pace with competitors on a technical level will be the last thing on their minds. But more recently we've seen Nintendo learn some very hard lessons on staying technologically relevant, with the Wii U's failure in this regard serving as a nauseatingly large slice of humble pie. Not to mention the new leadership at Nintendo seemingly keen to stay somewhat in step with the industry as a whole. So in short, I couldn't tell you, we'll have to see. Going on the internet.
You've got mail.
Now, it'd be criminal of me not to mention the situation when it comes to online. You might have seen the like to dislike ratio on any video Nintendo puts up regarding the Switch's online service. It's not exactly pretty. There's been plenty of articles, tweets and other online nonsense calling out those who speak negatively about Switch Online as crybabies or as acting entitled. And to an extent, yeah, I see where they're coming from. It is Nintendo's own product after all, but it's 2019 for God's sake. Yes, it's 20 quid a year. That's fine guys, I get that. But it doesn't work. Ooh. If I'm paying €20 for something, it'd be nice to get a service that's usable. Yeah. Or valuable. Yeah. Or tolerable. Yeah. It's fair to say that Nintendo's online service hasn't really improved at all since it became a paid subscription. So for a lot of people, myself included, all of a sudden we had to hand over money, nothing changed, and we got some NES games in an OK emulator. Bad Reggie, 20 push-ups and a written apology by tomorrow, bud! I mean, there's no party system, no way to link up with friends outside of a game lobby, meaning you rely on using another device to set up your games. It costs 20 quid. The servers and the Wi-Fi performance of the Switch itself are choppy at best. It costs 20 quid. Save states. Boys, they aren't new games. It costs 20 quid. If that's not enough to justify the public reaction, let's not forget that Nintendo stayed silent about Virtual Console coming to the Switch for months before announcing it just wouldn't be happening. This all culminated then in said NES games being rented to us for said 20 quid. Nice one, lads. Keep it up there, over in Kyoto. All the best. Look it, right, that bit was partly for the humour, but Switch Online does leave an awful lot to be desired. Over 2019, it could absolutely do with a substantial rework, and it's the most egregious example of old weird Nintendo with the system, whereas everything else has been relatively smooth sailing. Relatively. The game. Ultimately, I think what will make or break the Switch this year, before things really kick off with next gen, is a steady stream of quality games for everyone to get excited about. Not just me, you, and Fire Emblem Philip, or Galgun Gordon, but everyone. It's easy to get complacent and a bit cynical about certain franchises not making their way over to the Switch. Call of Duty, Overwatch, Tomb Raider, but in order to grasp the gravity of how far Nintendo have come in regards to developer relations and in convincing third parties to support the console, you only have to cast your mind back to the latter days of the Wii and the entirety of the Wii U's life, a period I like to call, whoops, made an arse of it.
Where are my donuts?
Nintendo have already achieved 2 miracles with the Switch. A, they've managed to market a handheld console that uses tech from 2015 as a home console for 2018 and beyond. And 2, they've convinced third parties to bring mainline entries of key franchises to that machine. This past year alone we've had Dark Souls, Diablo and even Warframe ported to the console. These are serious technical feats considering the power of the Switch, with most modern flagship phones having more raw graphical power in comparison to the console. And that's without even considering how refreshing it is to actually have these games on a Nintendo machine in the first place. I've also been given the chance to play two of my favourite games this year as console exclusives to the Switch, with Sticky Ball Simulator Katamari Damacy and indie masterpiece The Messenger providing me with many hours of fun on the TV, in bed and anywhere in between. Like, for instance, the hallway. The hallway is in between those two. It's in between those two rooms. In 2019 then, third parties and indies will be key in creating a lasting spot for the Switch alongside home consoles and PC. Thankfully, we're off to a decent enough start, with Dragon's Dogma having recently been announced for a spring release, and indie titles like the much anticipated, and I'm not joking, Untitled Goose Game looming on the not so distant horizon.
RPGs and geese.
Wonderful. First party titles though? Ugh, I'm a little worried. First off, dick move, Reggie. You showed me a logo for Metroid Prime 4 nearly 2 years ago. All we've had since is Ridley hitting the big time and spinning Mario's hat on his finger. Do you want me to call your dad? He will not be happy when he hears the way you've been carrying on like. Now, I have no doubt that Animal Crossing, Luigi's Mansion 3 and Fire Emblem will be good games. At worst, they'll merely be a bit of fun, but more than likely, they'll get the job done for fans of those series. The issue I have is with Nintendo potentially settling into a pattern over the next year or two. Over the course of the Switch's reveal and release, it was made abundantly clear that there was a changing of the guard over at Nintendo. The younger guys were now in charge of both hardware and software, and nowhere was this fresh new mentality clearer than with Breath of the Wild. Zelda sold Switches, and it modernised the company's image right up to the bleeding edge. That kind of global praise and attention for anything Nintendo hadn't been seen in over a decade. There was plenty of people who bought into the Switch based on Zelda not only being a fantastic Zelda game, but also just a masterpiece in general. Following that, we had Mario Odyssey, which gave fans exactly what they wanted and proved once again to everyone else that Nintendo still have the Midas touch. Like your man, what's his name? Oh, the James Bond fella. Oh, what's his name? The fella with the Midas touch. He has that thing he says. Real famous quote. What's his name? Oh, GoldenEye. Rogue Agent for the DS. Yeah, what's this he says? Oh yeah, I've some eye. Now that we have 2 years in the rearview mirror, it's fair to say that Nintendo haven't exactly redefined their other franchises to the same extent that Breath of the Wild redefined Zelda, something I hoped would have happened. Now, on one hand, we have titles like Smash Bros, a game that is loved by thousands of fans the world over for a specific set of reasons. So Nintendo and Sora's hands are kinda tied into giving those who play the game exactly what they expect. Pissing off the fan base and going in a completely different direction would be equivalent to, I don't know, EA cancelling their Star Wars games and driving away all of their talent. Imagine? On the other hand though, we have games like Super Mario Party and Mario Tennis Aces, which were perfect opportunities to redefine those series and offer something truly new and engaging, not only for the fans, but for the wider public as well. They were good games, don't get me wrong, but in the end they were essentially more of the same, but on an even smaller scale than before, at least at launch. I actually picked up Starlink Battle for Atlas a couple of weeks ago whilst it was on sale, and in the Switch version, Fox McCloud is playable throughout the entire campaign. He's fully voiced, he flies an Arwing, and he has his own quests and cutscenes too. Now, Starlink is an Ubisoft game, and it's very incredibly Ubisoft, but Fox's inclusion is handled so well, you'd be easily fooled into thinking that it's a transformative new Star Fox game from Nintendo, but with an open world and some action RPG mechanics. To be honest, it works so well, and Starlink did so badly, that Nintendo should honestly just get Ubisoft and that team to make the next Star Fox game and just call it a day. Well, Eve, how are you getting on? It's Shake.
Yeah?
Come here, that Starlink yoke,
Did you sell many copies of that game?
sold a few. Yeah.
Here and there, we sold a few of them.
Yeah? Why can I buy it for 20 quid then?
Oh, you mean the same price as 1 year of your fantastic online service, Shake?
Ah, come on now, don't start, please. Not again.
While I have you on the phone there, Do you think there's any chance that those lads could put together a Star Fox game for me?
No way, man.
Why? I hate furries.
What? Oh, kink shame by Eve again, man. I suppose, to an extent, Breath of the Wild set an impossibly high watermark for all other Nintendo IP out of the gate in regards innovation. It's probably a little unfair to expect them to rewrite the rulebook on all of their other franchises, as there's a core fanbase to appeal to with every series, and only so much creative genius to go around. Maybe it's time to resurrect some neglected IP such as F-Zero or the Nintendo Wars series and give those franchises a crack of the whip through a more modern lens. And I mean, it's also probably worth taking into consideration the sheer amount of other plates Nintendo have managed to keep spinning over the last 2 years. I mean, they've produced new hardware, they've produced new games, and they've managed to convince third parties to continue supporting the Switch. As I said at the start of this video, 2019 is a big important year for Nintendo. It's make or break, but no matter how it turns out, the Switch is, and will likely be for some time, my favourite games console since the PSP. Games console. Game console.
Wow! Incredible!
Now, look, I was nice there. I didn't give out at the end. Perfectly reasonable. Let me play Metroid, you sap.
皆さん、こんにちは。任天堂の開発の責任者をしております高橋です。今日はメトロイドプライムシリーズ最新作であるメトロイドプライム4についてお伝えしたいことがあります。それは本作の開発体制自体を見直し変更することです。具体的には我々はプロデューサーの田辺とともにオリジナルのメトロイドプライムシリーズの開発を担当したアメリカのレトロスタジオと互いに信頼し合い協力して開発を一から再スタートさせることにしました。再スタートさせることにしました。再スタートさせることにしました。
벌어서 데리러 간다